President Trump is calling for the impeachment of a judge who ordered the administration to halt deportation flights of alleged Venezuelan gang members. The judge's order to stop the flights was ignored by the administration, and the president's call for impeachment prompted a rare public rebuke by U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts. Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton, a partner at Dentons. Paul, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ted.
This statement just start with the Chief Justice Roberts, just saying, first of all, saying anything, but saying this in particular. What do you think?
It is rare to hear from a Chief Justice to talk publicly about what someone from the other branches of government are saying. But Chief Justice Roberts has done so in the past. You may remember that Chuck Schumer, who was concerned about overruling or overturning Roe versus Wade, said that the Supreme Court would reap the whirlwind. And Chief Justice Roberts said that talk like that could encourage violence or violent behavior towards the Supreme Court. So he has made statements publicly when other public officials have said things that he felt were offensive to the judiciary, but it is still a rare thing to hear.
And the president, I don't think he's backing off on this at all. Does anything keep him from making such statements regarding the impeachment of a judge who simply made a ruling he doesn't like?
There's nothing that would stop him or any other politician other than, I think, what you could call a social compact or good behavior. It typically isn't the kind of thing that presidents would say or that people who understand how it is the judiciary functions in the United States would adopt. Impeachment, as Chief Justice Roberts said, is the kind of thing you do when there is truly bad behavior on the bench, not simply a decision with which you disagree.
But the statement, the call for impeachment, Republicans in Congress are now drawing up the articles here. The impact on the simple rule of law.
It may be, but as you probably know and recognize, calling for an impeachment, given the current setup of the House and the Senate, is probably more performative than it is substantive. It'd be highly unusual to think that the House would have enough votes to pass a majority vote impeaching this judge, and even rarer or more unusual to think that the Senate could get 2/3 of the votes, as we know from watching President Trump go through 2 impeachment trials. You need 2/3 of the Senate vote to fully impeach an individual, including a judge, and that seems highly unlikely. So while there is an aspect of this that may appeal to a certain voter, it seems unusual to me or hard to believe that we would ever see this judge removed by impeachment.
Yeah, indeed. Obviously, the actual impeachment, I would think, would be a bit out there. But the chilling effect of the words, the constant, the attack on anyone in judiciary that simply disagrees with the president. I mean, we're not talking about I disagree. We're talking about you're this and you're that and you fill in the blanks.
And I think that's why you heard Chief Justice Roberts say that that's not the way in which we express our disagreement with any court. If we have a disagreement with the court and a decision that a court has made, you take that court up on appeal and you inform the appellate courts, this is why we disagree, this is why the judge got it wrong. That impeachment isn't, Justice Roberts was saying, the appropriate vehicle with which to remove a judge because he made a decision with which you disagree.
Talk about this case in particular, because from a distance it sounds like the judge says, don't do this, and the administration did that.
So the Alien Enforcement Act is the law that's at issue here. It's a law that was passed back in 1798, Ted, and it is a war powers act that presidents in the past, War of 1812, the First World War, the Second World War, most notoriously, used to round up Japanese Americans and put them in camps during the Second World War, is now being used again by this administration to say that this is a war powers act that we should be able to use to round up a Venezuelan gang. What the ACLU says is, no, that's not a correct interpretation of the law, and those individuals that you removed from the United States claiming that they were subject to this law never got due process. They were just detained and then shipped down to El Salvador, and we think they deserve due process. So they went to the judge and said, Judge, stop the government from employing this law to take these people from the United States. And the court said, all right, I'll give you a temporary injunction. I will give you a reprieve for a certain number of days until the government can explain to me that what they're doing is lawful and whether or not these individuals deserved due process. It was that temporary reprieve that's now at issue because the judge said in an oral order, to the extent you guys are flying anybody out of the country right now, turn those planes around and bring them back. Then he issued a formal written order, and what the Trump lawyers, I should better say the DOJ lawyers, are saying now is We complied with your order, Judge. The first 2 planes to leave didn't leave until or before your written order was issued. We think we complied with the written order. There was a 3rd plane that didn't have anybody that is impacted by the law that's in contest or at issue here. So we think we complied with your order. The judge wants to see more. And so that's what the discussion has been about between the Department of Justice and this judge.
And yet, the attorneys seem like they're saying, the oral order doesn't apply here, the written order does, even though the oral order said turn these planes around. Attorneys, that's what they're saying. But outside, the Trump administration, other folks pro-Trump, they are just going crazy on this. And that's not what they're saying. They're saying that a district judge, and talk to me about this, the legal aspects of the idea of a single district judge anywhere affecting policy, law, actions around the country. They're saying that's not right. They're saying that's against the law.
Right. So there are a couple of things in there. Number one, I think we've seen before that President Trump has employed this idea of using spokespeople, including himself, who's a very able spokesperson for himself, to make statements outside of court that you don't hear the lawyers making in court. What we don't hear from the Department of Justice lawyers in court is we are going to ignore your order. They're making arguments. Whether they are with merit or without merit, they're making arguments before the court. They are not saying and have not said, we're just going to ignore your order because we don't have to follow it. What they say outside of court is we don't have to follow it. Tom Holman, most notoriously, has been saying, one of the administration individuals in charge of these roundups has been saying, we don't have to follow the law and we won't follow the law. So what you hear outside of court and what you hear inside of court are 2 very different things. And then to the idea that a single district court judge can put an injunction out that will stop something from occurring throughout the country, a universal injunction, a universal put the brakes on it order, is something that the Supreme Court has approved in limited ways in the past. So this is not novel, this isn't new, it has occurred in the past in different areas and for different subjects.
Is this something that the administration is pushing and pushing hard because they want to see it return to the Supreme Court?
I think they want to have somebody other than this judge look at this, and they have tried now a couple of times in some, I would say, unusual ways. They wrote a letter to the Court of Appeals saying, take this judge off the case. Writing letters to the courts of appeals saying we want this judge removed is, in my experience, an unusual way of expressing your displeasure with a judge. But it is, again, a communication, whether with merit or without merit, that is at least one that doesn't go so far as to say, we refuse to follow the judge's order.
Paul, does this all go back? I mean, all of this, so much of what we're seeing, does it go back to the Supreme Justice, Chief Justice Roberts' court, basically giving immunity to the President of the United States for official actions? It sure seems like it does.
Well, what you can say, I think, is that Chief Justice Roberts, who voted in favor of that opinion that gave the President of the United States broad immunity for acts that take place within the core acts, for example, we've talked about giving a pardon before, he has aligned himself with President Trump's view of his power and authority. But here he seems very clearly to be saying, not here. You've gone too far by expressing that you should remove this judge with impeachment. This judge, if you don't agree with his opinion, take him up on appeal, but do not seek his impeachment.
Last question before you go. Is there a constitutional crisis happening? We just don't realize it? Or is it a question of, not a question of if, but a question of when?
I think if you were listening to the individuals on the Trump administration outside of court, you would say, and it would be fair to say, that is a constitutional crisis, because what they're saying is we don't have to follow the orders of the court. If you read the pleadings that the lawyers for the Trump administration are making in court, I don't think you would say the same thing.
Interesting. So you're basically saying the attorneys are walking a fine line, but everyone around the White House is joining the chorus.
A fine, I would say even aggressive position with this court, and they are coming very close to finding themselves in contempt of court. If that happens, we'll see. But so far, they're making the arguments that lawyers make.
Paul Charlton, again with Dentons, and a former U.S. attorney and our go-to guy on stuff that just